The 1 hour week in review program will exhibit experts and commentators to look back on the news of the past 7 days and break down stories and issues across Africa that everyone is talking about. Africa This Week will feature guest of the week and engage people at the center of every key news, every story in the best interactive, entertaining, and informative way possible. Africa This Week on Home Digital FM 99.9 every Saturday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. starting from next Saturday, October 22nd. Africa This Week with me, Bojang Jnr. See you there.
Home Digital FM 99.9 in Burkina Town. For all the businessmen and women, move out of the darkness, follow the light. Come sell your business with us today. Home Digital FM, let your customers know what you're offering. Be on top of your competitors. Home Digital FM, we will help you stand out. Come advertise with us today for all your businesses. We offer live program coverage both on Facebook Live and on the radio. Text us to sell your products and services. The media is in control. Tell your customers when, where, and how to meet you through Home Digital FM. Don't worry. Do your business. We will sell you out. Call us today on 734-3125 or 200-5770 620-1413 766-8394. Home Digital FM. Follow the light.
Africa This Week, a new program that features and analyzes all the top news and events that took place across the continent during the week, is coming on Home Digital FM. The 1 hour week in review program will exhibit experts and commentators to look back on the news of the past 7 days and break down stories and issues across Africa that everyone is talking about. Africa This Week will feature guest of the week and engage people at the center of every key news, every story in the best interactive, entertaining, and informative way possible. Africa This Week on Home Digital FM 99.9 every Saturday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. starting from next Saturday, October 22nd. Africa This Week with me, Bojang Jnr. See you there. Hello and a very warm welcome to your week in review program Africa This Week, looking at the continent's top stories over the last 7 days. Coming up in this edition, the head of the Ecowas mission in the Gambia announced plans to wind down ECOMIG, the sub-regional military intervention in the country.
The dynamics of the mission are going to change based on what the heads of states agreed. It's there that the mission should now start.
The remains of Ibrahima Solo Sandeng will finally be buried on Tuesday, January 10. In a communique issued Friday, the Ministry of Justice said following the conclusion of the case of the state versus Yankuba Baji, permission has been granted by the courts for the release of the remains of Solo Sandeng, adding that President Adama Barrow has ordered that he be granted an official funeral. The funeral service is scheduled to take place at the Never Again Arch in Banjul. Solo Sandeng was tortured to death by security agents in 2016 under the reign of President Yahya Jammeh after he and other opposition activists went out on a peaceful demonstration at Westfield calling for electoral reforms. The Ecowas country representative in the Gambia has announced that the sub-regional bloc would start the process of winding down ECOMIG, the sub-regional military intervention in the country. Codenamed Operation Restore Democracy, ECOMIG started its mandate in the Gambia in January 2017 when sub-regional troops from neighboring Senegal, Ghana, and Nigeria entered the country following the departure of former President Yahya Jammeh to exile in Equatorial Guinea after he initially refused to recognize the election victory of Adama Barrow. His decision triggered a political impasse, forcing sub-regional leaders to send in troops. Mieta Lily French, the ECOWAS country representative, has hinted that the West African troops stationed in the country will start winding down their mission unless there is a security situation that might dictate otherwise. Though the ECOMIG mandate has recently been extended till the end of this year, the ECOWAS country rep said the dynamics of the mission would change. She was speaking at a ceremony marking the end of the tenure of the head of ECOMIG, Colonel Sheikh Omar Tamba, and the beginning of his successor, Colonel Ali Khan.
To you, Colonel Khan, welcome. You have very big shoes to fill. Our expectations are going to be very high because of the bar that the FC has left. But I am sure that you come highly recommended, and therefore you will live up to our expectations and to the dictates of the mission. You have also come at a time when the dynamics of the mission are going to change based on what the heads of states agreed. It's there that the mission should now start a process of winding down. It's been extended for a year, but then we are always conscious of the security situation, and what that dictates will also have an impact on what is decided at the end of the day. But for now, that is the decision that exists, and we will start working towards that, bearing in mind always that the security situation is paramount. The reason why we are here is to provide security for Gambia and to ensure that democracy prevails. And if there are any threats, then we would also respond to that.
Mieta Lily French, the head of the ECOWAS mission in the Gambia. Still in the Gambia, the government on Tuesday announced that 2 civilians and a police officer were charged in connection with the recent alleged coup plot. In a statement, it said civilians Mustafa Jabi and Sekuba Jabi and Sub-Inspector Fakeba Jawara of the Gambia Police Force were arrested on Friday and charged with concealment of treason and conspiracy to commit a felony. They were remanded in custody at the Mile 2 prison, according to the statement. The government on December 21st said it had thwarted a coup attempt the previous day and detained some military personnel. At least 7 soldiers, including a lance corporal, who the government said was the ringleader, have been arrested. Meanwhile, President Adama Barrow has hailed the Gambia security sector reform process, even though activists and analysts often criticize the president and his government for not showing any interest in reforming the security sector that was used and abused during the regime of Yahya Jammeh. Barrow was addressing the nation on New Year's Eve last Saturday. He also spoke about crime rate in the country.
Our security sector reform program has progressed in building the capacity of our security forces. The armed forces are being reoriented and motivated to enhance their role and responsibilities to assure maximum security in the country. For their part, all citizens should take responsibility to control crime, while crimes reported to the police dropped in 2022 with public cooperation, burglary and domestic violence and other crimes could be reduced further. And on similar lines, those in border communities that experience sporadic armed conflicts should collaborate with the security services to secure the country. Our territorial integrity must never be compromised.
Gambian President Adama Barrow. Authorities in Burkina Faso Monday said they have expelled the French ambassador amid a surge in anti-French sentiment in the former French colony. Government spokesman Jean-Emmanuel Ouedraogo confirmed that Ambassador Luc Allard was asked to leave, but provided no further details. Allard's expulsion comes less than 2 weeks after the UN resident and humanitarian coordinator in Burkina Faso, Barbara Manzi, was also declared persona non grata. Relations between France and Burkina Faso have deteriorated after repeated military coups. Protests by opponents of the French military presence have surged, partly linked to perceptions that France has not done enough to tackle an Islamist insurgency that has spread in recent years from neighboring Mali. Still in Burkina Faso, 28 bodies were found in Nuna, in northwestern part of the country last weekend. According to an official statement, the government was informed of a tragedy that occurred in Nuna, capital of the province of Kosi, during the night of December 30th to 31st. The government statement added that an investigation was immediately opened to know the circumstances of the tragedy and to establish all responsibilities. Pending the outcome of the investigation, it called on the population to remain calm, stating that all measures were being taken to shed light on the incident. A court in Senegal Monday sentenced 2 lawmakers to 6 months in jail for assaulting a pregnant parliamentarian in December during an acrimonious parliamentary session that degenerated into a full-blown brawl. The men Amadou Niang and Massata Samba of the opposition POR party were also ordered to pay a total of 5 million CFA francs, about $8,200, in compensation to the victim Ami Njai of the ruling Beno Bokk coalition. In a chaotic televised scene that shocked Senegal, Samba slapped Njai in the face during a budget debate in the National Assembly after she scoffed at his remarks in criticism of her. Njai responded by throwing a chair at Samba and was then pushed to the ground by other lawmakers and kicked in the abdomen by Nyang. The brawl worsened the political tension in Senegal that have risen since the ruling party lost its comfortable majority in a July legislative election. The incident triggered a fierce debate about parliamentary discourse and attacks on women. The UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights Defenders Tuesday said she received a very disturbing report about the deteriorating health of Senegalese investigative journalist Pape Alé Niang, who has recently been on hunger strike in detention. In a tweet, Mary Laulo called for Niang's immediate release and access to medical care. Niang's lawyer Monday said he was extremely strained after a 2-week hunger strike he launched in protest of his detention. Niang, the head of the Dakar Matin online news platform and fierce critic of the Macky Sall regime, was arrested on November 6 and charged with divulging information likely to harm national defense. He was released on December 14 but sent back to prison a week later. He has been on hunger strike since his latest imprisonment on December 20th. Niang has been at Dakar's main hospital since December 24th, with doctors concerned about his condition for the past 5 days, according to a local press body. His detention sparked a wave of criticism from the press, civil society groups, and Senegal's opposition, many of whom called for his release. Senegal has a strong reputation for openness and press freedom, but this status has been in decline since Macky Sall came to power. This is according to Amnesty International Senegal Director Sedi Gassama.
Since Macky Sall came to power, all the human rights organizations, national and international, have been condemning attempt to rights in this country. It can be death in detention, it can be execution of force during protest, and the killing of protesters, by the police or gendarmerie. It can be a restriction to the freedom of expression, to the freedom of the press. All international NGOs have been reporting about this violation. So it's a very, very, very difficult situation for human rights in this country since Macky Sall come to power. And we expect the situation to get worse in the coming months because Macky Sall is clearly going to ask for election. And this is definitely not allowed by the Constitution. Himself, he stated so many times in the last 5 years that he was doing his second and last term, but he clearly now wants to, stand again for election. And we expect civil society organization, the political parties to protest and repression to be used to curb this protest. So we are in a very difficult situation that may get worse in the coming months, and it's absolutely important that we prepare for that, but also international community put pressure on the government to respect the right of citizens to assembly and to peaceful protest.
Amnesty International's Senegal director Seydi Gassama. I do apologize for the poor quality of that sound. Now to Mali. A court in Mali has sentenced 46 soldiers from Ivory Coast to 20 years imprisonment for conspiring against the government and 3 others to death in absentia. 49 Ivorian soldiers were arrested at the airport in Mali's capital Bamako in July, 3 of whom were later released. Their arrests led to a diplomatic dispute between the neighboring countries and widespread condemnation from regional allies. Mali's ruling junta said the soldiers were acting as mercenaries, while Ivory Coast said they were part of a United Nations peacekeeping mission in Mali. They were charged with attempting to undermine state security in August and convicted at a trial that began last week Thursday and ended on Friday ahead of a January 1st deadline set by West Africa's main political and economic bloc to release them or face sanctions. Meanwhile, Ivorian President Alassane Ouattara has told his compatriots that the convicted soldiers would soon return to Ivory Coast. In his end-of-year speech broadcast on national television RTI, Ouattara paid tribute to the 46 soldiers and assured of their return home soon. He did not give any details of how soon they would be out of jail in Mali to return home. You are listening to Africa This Week on Home Digital with me, Bojang Jnr. A reminder of our Ecowas mission in the Gambia and the tension in the country. Burkina Faso amid a surge in anti-French sentiment in the former French colony. Senegalese MPs sentenced for 6 months in jail for assaulting a pregnant colleague during an acrimonious session that degenerated into a full-blown brawl in the parliament. And UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights Defenders said she received a very disturbing reports about the deteriorating health of Senegalese investigative journalist Pape Alé Niang, who has recently been on hunger strike in detention. Still ahead in the program, Rwandan President Kagame accused the international community of hypocrisy over claims of Rwanda meddling in DR Congo conflict. We also have our human interest and special guest segments, plus sports and more. Stay with us.
Africa This Week, coming to you from Home Digital 99.9 FM in the heart of Brikama.
A court in Botswana has issued an arrest warrant for former President Ian Khama, who is facing 14 charges ranging from unlawful possessions of firearms to money laundering. Khama fled to neighboring South Africa a year ago after a bitter fallout with his hand-picked successor, President Mogwitsi Masisi. Khama was formally charged in April but has yet to appear in court. The warrant said Khama should be arrested on site. The arrest warrant stems from charges of the illegal possession of firearms, a crime he allegedly committed in 2016. But Kama, who led Botswana from 2008 to 2018, told SABC in South Africa that he was being persecuted for his opposition to Masisi, a former ally.
Back in 2019, after I left the ruling party, because Masisi was demonstrating the character of a typical dictator, I then joined another party, an opposition party, and we succeeded in unseating them in their stronghold, in their main stronghold in the country, through the campaigning that I was doing with others to help other opposition parties. That for him was the crime. Not these funny things that you're hearing about now. There's been no crime, I've done nothing wrong. That was the crime, to have left the ruling party and campaigned against him. We have got elections coming up in just over a year. This coming year, 2023, is going to be very busy politically in our country, and I am going to campaign very rigorously to ensure that there's regime change in Botswana. I'm going to be there in the forefront because I believe I still have some influence on the people of Botswana, having been a former president. And I'm going to use all that influence to ensure that he does not come back, because he's not good for the country. And that is why they are trying everything to ensure that I'm removed from the scene by hook or by crook.
Former President of Botswana, Ian Khama, in an interview with SABC in South Africa. Tanzania's President Samia Suluhu Hassan Tuesday lifted a ban on political rallies 6.5 years after her predecessor John Magufuli imposed the measure. Under the policy, which came into force in 2016, elected politicians were allowed to conduct rallies in their constituencies, but other political rallies or protests were banned. Hassan, who came to office after Magufuli died in May 2021, said her decision to lift the ban was part of her strategy of reconciliation, resilience, reforms, and rebuilding the nation, dubbed 4Rs. She has also lifted a ban on 4 newspapers, and during a visit to Brussels last year, she met Tundu Lissu, an exiled opposition leader. In Uganda, at least 9 people died, most aged between 10 and 20, in the shopping mall cross as partygoers rang in the New Year in the capital Kampala. The celebrations to welcome in 2023 were the first in Uganda in 3 years after restrictions linked to the COVID-19 pandemic and security. Fred Enanga, the spokesperson of the Ugandan police force, gave details of the incident during a press briefing in Kampala.
In the outskirts of Kampala, in a shopping mall, there was a concert that was organized, and we received information towards around midnight that there was a stampede. 3 children died on spot, and 6 others were pronounced dead on arrival in a hospital. The injured are recovering. They were about 10, but they are recovering. They are not so badly off. But mostly these were children. The majority were children. The ones who were affected were children.
Fred Enanga, the spokesperson of the Ugandan police force. Meanwhile, the police in Uganda have arrested Abi Musinguzi, also known as Abitex, the high-profile events organizer behind the New Year concert that ended in a crush, killing at least 9 people, mostly children. Rwandan President Paul Kagame has warned the international community over claims of Rwanda meddling in DR Congo conflict by supporting the M23 rebels. The DRC, as well as the United States and several European countries, have repeatedly accused Rwanda of backing the M23. The European Union has become the latest institution to blame Rwanda for the deepening conflict in its neighboring country. In a statement Saturday, EU's Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell urged Rwanda to stop supporting the M23 and use all means to press the rebel group to comply with the decisions taken by the East Africa Community and at the November summit in Angola. But in his New Year address to his nation, President Kagame accused the international community of hypocrisy and said the Congo government was using Rwanda as an excuse for its lack of governance.
It is disappointing that the international community pays lip service to peace and actually ends up complicating matters, which undermines the regional processes. Some in the international community blame Rwanda, even though they know very well that the true responsibility lies primarily with the government of the Democratic Republic of Congo. We have had enough of this hypocrisy. It is high time that the unwarranted vilification of Rwanda stopped. The reason this situation prevails is because DRC is unwilling or unable to govern its territory. Rwanda will not accept to bear the burden for the DRC's responsibilities. We have enough burdens of our own to bear, and we shall do so as effectively as we can.
Rwandan President Paul Kagame. From news and current affairs to our human interest segment, today we feature a young Gambian man who came so close to death in a dinghy boat while crossing the Mediterranean to Europe, searching for better opportunities.
My name is Sidi Senegal. I'm an advocate and a refugee activist, and at the same time I work as a social worker for migrants and refugees in Germany here.
In the Gambia, Sidi had just started working as a reporter at a local radio station. His dream was to become a prominent professional broadcaster, and the opportunity at the radio station was a dream come true for him. But before he could mature into professional journalism he was yearning for, danger loomed. There was a full-blown dictatorship in the country, and Sidi, like many of his compatriots, got trapped into the dictatorship. He had no choice but to flee.
I wasn't really prepared to leave the country. I just decided within 3 days and I left the Senegal, and that's how the journey started. I remember it was 2014, March 2014.
Sidi hit the road first to neighboring Senegal and then to a few other West African states along the way until he reached Niger's Agadez, the crossroads for migrants from West Africa.
Tough, crazy. What I experienced in Agadez, I've seen people who are dead. I've seen people who refrain to tell their parents that they can make it again. They cannot even leave Agadez because they are sick and they have no one to take care of them.
Sidi didn't wait long to go through that pain and hardship in Agadez. He left for Libya, the last African soil before Europe, and the point of no return.
I cannot remember exactly, but I know that it was Monday that I left. It took me 2 days before I'm gonna be in Libya in Gatron. I could remember, and I remember that we were three. So these Africans, we have 3 cars that left, and one of the car got lost, and there was a woman there. There was only 2 people who survived. And when we reached in Gatron, those 2 people came and told us that everybody were dead. And this was one of the things that made me feel like this is not the right, journey that I really think I want to take.
Sidi proceeded to the Libyan capital Tripoli, one step closer to Europe. But unlike most of the African migrants who would be forced to live depressing lives in the troubled North African country, he had a stable home to go to.
My auntie was working in Libya for 20 years with Nigerian embassy. So when I came to Libya, she was shocked that I was in Libya and I was in her place.
In addition to that privilege, Sidi had his press identity card he acquired from the Gambia as a journalist. Where other migrants faced obstacles, his card protected him and gave him a bit of access. But despite that opportunity, he couldn't escape witnessing pain and trauma that other migrants went through.
I've seen people who have been killed. I've seen people who have been drowned. People that I know. I've seen people who are sick to death and they lost their life. I've seen people who lost their mindset. They're like mentally disordered at the end.
After a while in Libya, Sidi and family raised the amount of money he needed to pay for the boat trip to Europe through the Mediterranean.
I knew that you're gonna cross the Mediterranean, of course, and I knew that there are people who are drowned through this, Mediterranean journey. But what I knew is that the traffickers say they're gonna help us to use this marine boat that is safe, and then we'll be safe because it's gonna be a big boat and everything's gonna be okay and everybody's gonna save. And like they make it easier for you, and they're gonna even tell you that you see if you look at this river, because I remember when I was in connection, there is this Gambian man who is working with these Arab people who tell you, Janji ben kala janji nye fa- nye nya fa jana, if you look at this place, when meaning that if you look at that area within 2 hours, you see Europe. My friend, you're gonna be in Europe in next 24 hours. You're gonna drink your teas. At the moment you see nothing, you only see Europe in your head. So like you're just like you're already in Europe. So the only thing between you and Europe is this river.
But on the day of the journey, Sidi was shocked when he saw the boat that was supposed to take him and his colleagues across the sea to Europe.
But the funniest thing is that when we are taken to the harbor, we find out that it's not even a big boat, it's a small boat. And it's the small boat is just a fiber. I was like totally disappointed that it was fiber, it was a small boat. And the other thing is that it should have a problem. And then they went home and used on something else to make another option so that we can move at that night.
That tube was fixed, and at around 4 a.m. the next day, Sidi and 114 other migrants were loaded onto the dinghy boat that was supposed to take just a few dozen passengers.
We have been driving, and see that the fiber is now getting even worse. So one side of the fiber was all off. It's like now people have to find a way to catch it. Like this, they have to help each other. If not, we all gonna go down. We see one big ship from Thailand called the Nodana. A big ship is that. It's not for rescue, whatever. So we waved them, but unfortunately, the ship saw us, so they were trying to help us to break. But we are very close to the ship. So the power of the ship is pulling water on us, and our boat was unfortunately torn upside down. It capsized, and I remember more than 40 people lost their life on that day. I was under the small boat and I couldn't swim. I remember I have my trouser. I wanted to take off my trouser, but I couldn't because I was shocked. I knew that I'm gonna die here. I knew that something crazy gonna happen because this is not gonna be possible. We're gonna get to Italy like this. Then I was under the ship. So when I turned off, somebody saw me, but the person was on top of that fiber that capsized, because before somebody they will help them. So he saw me, then he took off his clothes and give it to me so that I can catch the clothes so that I can at least have a space to breathe. So that's how I was saved from the rescuer from Nodana.
Was there any moment during that struggle when the boat capsized, when you gave up, you just waiting for death, you thought you would die?
I gave up before the boat will even capsize. The only thing I was thinking about is my mom and dad thinking I'm going to Europe and I'm dying here without seeing me and without even praying for me. It's a very. I've seen other people who are like crying, but they couldn't cry anymore. They couldn't. The only thing they do is we look at each other like this. No, but I was totally shocked. I couldn't say anything. The only thing is that I started to cry and my tears are coming out.
Your colleagues who died, you saw them drowning.
Yeah, I've seen people who drown. I've seen somebody that when I was having this clue from the person who was on top, somebody was drowning. Then I asked the person, "Come with me. We cut this." The person was totally unconscious at the end. When he catches that, what he's gonna do now? The person is trying to pull me out from that room because he was also totally unconscious. I remember that, and I cried. Then the person on top of this fiber told me, "If you don't be careful, I'm gonna leave it, and you're all gonna die." Then I have to pause that portion, and he was conscious, not unconscious. I have to pause him so that I could save my life because he was unconscious and he was trying to save his life. And at the end, the person, lost his life.
Sidi Sedikan, a Gambian backway migrant to Europe. Sidi now lives in Germany. Now time for sports. As global tributes poured in for Brazil's football legend Pele, Cape Verde's prime minister has announced his country would rename the national stadium after the legend. The 15,000-seater Estadio Nacional do Cabo Verde, located just outside the capital Praia, will become the Pele Stadium. The news comes after FIFA's president Gianni Infantino proposed while speaking at Pele's memorial service in Brazil that every country should name a stadium after Pele, who died on 29 December at the age of 82. Prime Minister Ulysses Correa e Silva said Cape Verde and Brazil have a history and culture that go hand in hand, considering they are two sister countries linked by language and very similar identities. In a Facebook statement, he said Pele was and always would be a reference in Brazil, in Portuguese-speaking countries, and in the rest of the world, being an idol that links several generations. Former Zambian football team captain Kalusa Bwalia has also paid tribute to Pele. This is what he told South Africa's SABC television.
It is a life well lived. Pele is a global superstar of the game. We have to celebrate his life because of what he has meant to football in the world. I think that growing up, I grew up in Kamchanga in Zambia, and so around the World Cup 1970, we heard the name of Pele. That Brazil was playing this kind of brand of football that we Africans like to emulate. And so it was exemplary. The way football is played today is thanks to people like Pele, who have been able to demonstrate to the world and to us as young people growing up in Africa, all our friends and all our countries want to play the Brazilian way, and because we feel that we have that flair. And so he has a great influence, immense, it's an inspiration. Pele, when they played, if you think about the team that in 1970, I can't even see it now, with Gerson and Tostão and Ribeirinho, Jairzinho, Carlos Alberto. So yeah, it is the way football has to be played.
Zambian football legend Kalusa Bwalia. Now time for our special guest segment. Today I want to pay a solemn tribute from the bottom of my heart to a Mauritanian and later stateless activist who made a great impact on my life and who I've just been told has died in Senegal. Aljuma Sissoko was one of the many victims of Mauritania's racial repression. He was born in Senegal in 1951 to Mauritanian parents who migrated to Senegal in 1946 for work. Sissoko moved to Mauritania as a maritime expert in 1973 after his father drummed the idea of returning home to Mauritania and help contribute to the development of the country, his country. At the time, the only documents he possessed were those of Mauritania. He was content with his Mauritanian citizenship, even though he was born in Senegal. While working as a maritime expert in Mauritania, Sissoko was sent to Canada, USA, Portugal, France, and Morocco for maritime trainings on behalf of the Mauritanian government. He was later appointed to be in charge of all the fishing operations in Mauritania. But in May 1989, during the heat of the Mauritania-Senegal border conflict, Sissoko was deported by the Mauritanian authorities to Senegal because of his dark-colored skin. For the next 3 decades, he became the voice and face of Mauritanian refugees in Senegal. He became stateless and homeless at some point in the streets of Dakar. With regard to my personal relationships with him, I followed and covered Sissoko's story and activism for nearly 10 years. During that time, our relationship grew into friendship, brotherhood. He taught me about contentment and humility, steadfastness and vigor, especially in the face of adversity. I remember each time he was on a hunger strike, especially in front of the headquarters of the UNHCR in Dakar, to denounce the hardships meted out to Mauritanian refugees in Senegal. I'd go visit him, sit next to him, and hold his hands as he battled hunger for his convictions. A man of wisdom and pride, he would refuse financial help each time I offered whenever he visited me, either at home or at work in Dakar. He'd often shove the money back into my hands and say, "Mr. Sheriff, just continue to appreciate me and believe in my fight. That's enough for me. Keep the money." And then with a broad smile, he'd walk away. Sissoko hardly have anything to eat, but whatever he had, he shared it among Mauritanian refugees. I watched him do that so many times. Here is a long excerpt of my first interview with Aljuma Sissoko.
At that point when I arrived, because Mauritania was weak in education, in specialists in many things. And then at that time, we have a chance to have a scholarship from Morocco. I have been in Casablanca during 2 years to do navigation, to be a captain of ship. And at that time, Mauritania began to build a navigation fleet for administration of navigation in Mauritania. And therefore, we were the first person, civil, because they have military, but civil military navigation specialist in Mauritania. It was very important.
Yeah, and through the years after your scholarship, you returned to Mauritania. You were one of, as you said, one of the first maritime officers, civilian maritime experts in Mauritania. And because of your expertise, Mauritanian government sent you to Canada, USA, Portugal, France, and a lot of other places. At that moment, when you were traveling around the world on behalf of the Mauritanian government and Mauritania as a country, did you feel that you accomplished your mission of helping develop Mauritania?
Sure. That I am very proud to talk about that, because it's not easy to talk about himself, but all the states I have been as a student, I'm among the first of the class. And secondly, when I came back to begin to work, I was very integrated with the society. And really, I was very glad to see how I participate to the development of maritime administration in Mauritania. In 1978, I was a person who gave maritime document to anyone who have to go to marine in all the Mauritania. And even now, when I see some marine person, when I see their document,
you can see that it was your signature.
Yes, my writing. That's to tell you.
And in some countries where you studied or you did short courses on behalf of the Mauritanian authorities, those countries, including the ones in the Western world, wanted you to stay and work for their country, but you always return to Mauritania.
I never, because first of all, I remember what my father told me. That's first. And secondly, I see that it will be a shame if a country, a poor country like this African country, take all the money to educate you and you go to operate, you stay there. For me, I cannot accept it. It was one of my fighting also for African educated person to come back to their country, because it's only African people who can develop Africa.
You sound Pan-African.
In my heart.
But you could have earned much more money in those countries than Mauritania.
I can see it.
You only saw a country you love so much.
It was in my heart. But the more easier, it is here in Senegal. I have classmates in the World Maritime University in Sweden. They do all they can for me to take Senegal identity, to get a job. I refuse, because for me it's a struggle. Whatever is the difficulties, the sacrifice, I have to do it.
And in all these periods you were traveling around the world and signing maritime documents, was there any moment during those times when you felt, even for a minute, that you belong to Senegal and not Mauritania?
Never. For me, it was clear in my mind, had to know that I have 5 fingers and I am a Mauritanian citizen.
Let's fast forward a bit. Despite all your love and affection for Mauritania, your emotional attachment, all the sacrifice, your expertise, developing Mauritania, being a big figure in Mauritania, your life changed on May 7, 1989. Can you tell me about this? What happened on this fateful day?
It's a very shame and very difficult to say that, because, during this conflict, Mauritania and Senegal, they begin to destroy or even to kill some Senegalese people.
That was the border dispute between in the late 80s.
But even in Nouakchott, I'm talking in Nouadhibou, where I was, in the port, the big port, fishing port in Mauritania. As an official, I see many Senegalese who have very big problem. I take my shoes and go to see one chief of officer in the police and tell him, they have some Senegalese in that house and that house. I want you to give me a car to help them to go to the area where they are, where the person will be safe before they come back to their country. You give me a car and two policemen. I go and I pick up everywhere I pass. Say, hey, come on here. They have some Senegalese here. If you don't take them, they will kill them. I did.
So you take them and transport them to safety.
To the transit place.
Because at that time, Mauritanians were killing Senegalese.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And one of the policemen tell me, Sissoko, do you realize what we have doing now? I say, what do you mean? He said, at that time, every person is escaping. Don't talk, don't touch the Senegalese. And you are giving a way for Senegalese to
escape. Yeah.
He said, I am sure you will not stay here.
And then you ended up being arrested.
2 days later, I was arrested.
Who arrested you?
The police. They come to house, and how they do in every part of Mauritania, they come and they ask the person to take their identity card. At that time, I am preparing to go to travel to United States.
And all your documents were Mauritanian documents.
Clear. Identity, passport, and thing. And I give him my passport. And he tell me, you have to go to the police because they have one place in the police where they keep person for interrogation and things like that. It is by that. The only thing that they tell me, you are born in Senegal and you are Senegalese. You have to go.
Just like that?
Just that. You are born in Senegal, you have to go to Senegal. And to say hello to your president, Abdou Diouf.
And what happens after that?
I was very sad. I was very, very, very sad. At that point, I feel that really something very bad will happen in my country.
And the last time I interviewed you some years ago for Radio Netherlands, you said, and I quote, they invited me for interrogation about my nationality. The next day I was arrested, put on a military plane and deported to Senegal just because I am black. Before this deportation, before they officially whisked you out of the country, even when you were arrested and they told you they will deport you, did it occur to you that this was serious? They will really deport you?
A certain period of time, I say, no, perhaps it's a mistake. Because I know the person know who I am at that place.
They already knew who you were.
Because I know them. The person who interrogated me, I know him. He used to work.
But on that day, it didn't matter.
It's like he never knew me.
From the interrogation and threatening to deport you, they escorted you to a military plane. Can you tell me about that?
Yes, I have to go to the transit place where I have bring the Senegalese, to be safe. And the person, the two soldiers who were in front of me, one of them will say that when we arrive in the transit place, he will take my boots. The other one will take my watch. 5 minutes later, the chief arrived and said, now, Sissoko will not go to the transit. You have to bring it directly to the airport. It is hard as that I was safe. If not, I feel that if I have been to the transit, that will be very hard for me.
At what stage did you realize 100% that you were going to be deported?
When they take all my documents. When they take all, because the first time they tell me, go to home, you will come back. When they take all my documents, and the chief tell me, I don't ask you anything, Sissoko. Now you go to Senegal, to your country, and to say hello to your president. I'm sure now I have no way. There have many persons who come for intervention, to say it's not true, it's not good. At that point, I know now I will go.
Well, do you think you were a victim of the political crisis between Senegal and Mauritania, or you were deported, your livelihood taken from you just because of the color of your skin?
Sure.
And then from the airport, they put you on this military plane?
Yes. At that time, they have a military plane from Morocco, from France, who go to Senegal, go to Mauritania to bring the person.
How many of you were on this plane? Do you remember?
About, I cannot say 100, but not far from that, because we have no seat. All the person were down. All the seats were put it out.
How did you feel?
Well, at that moment, I feel, I cannot say it's safe, but I feel at least I have saved my life.
What was the worst thing that could have happened to you? Worse than the deportation?
They killed me. How they kill many other person. In the police center, in the road, in many other parts. It shows that if I stay there more than 2 days or I go to the transit, I can be killed.
And when you arrived in Senegal, you had nothing other than your clothes, the clothes you were wearing.
Yes, only that.
What was that feeling like?
Yeah, that's,
Did you feel you were sent back to your other home?
No, never. I feel that I have been deported to another country.
Which is not your country.
No.
Even though you were born in Senegal.
Yeah, particularly.
Late Mauritanian refugee in Dakar and my dear friend Al Juma Sissoko. May Allah bless his soul and grant him Jannah. With that, we come to the end of this edition of your Weekend Review program, Africa This Week, on Home Digital 99.9 FM. I'm your producer and presenter, Bojang Jnr. Thanks for your company, and join me the same time next week for another edition of the program. Digital FM 99.9 in Burkina Town. For all the businessmen and women, move out of the darkness, follow the light. Come sell your business with us today. Home Digital FM, let your customers know what you're offering. Be on top of your competitors. Home Digital FM, we will help you stand out. Come advertise with us today for all your businesses. We offer live program coverage both on Facebook Live and on the radio. Text us to sell your products and services. The media is in control. Tell your customers when, where, and how to meet you through Home Digital FM. Don't worry. Do your business. We will sell you out. Call us today on 734-3125 or 200-5770, 620-1413, 766-8394. Home Digital FM. Follow the light.